The last few mornings, the temperature has been a little bit crisp. And yes, my version of crisp and yours might be different considering that I live on the 33rd latitude. But it's a reminder that summer's coming to an end and fall is on the way. So today I'm going to do a little mini episode to talk about all the things that I recommend to prep your body for fall, how to deal with the shorter days, how to manage your light, your hydration, and all of the things that I get asked questions about on a pretty regular basis. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the Sarah Kleiner Wellness YouTube channel and the Evolving Wellness Podcast. Today, I'm going to give you a little miniature episode to talk about shifting into fall. Now, I might glance down at this paper here because I have a few things written down that I want to cover. First, we're going to talk about morning routine because I get a ton of questions about that. Second, we're going to talk about temperature and cold. We're going to talk about lighting indoors. We're also going to talk about red light therapy, hydration, which is a key thing people need to support during this time, and then evening routine, because this can also get thrown off as the days get shorter. Before we jump into that, I want to let you know I'm going to give 30% off until Thursday, August the 29th on my Leptin Reset. Now, I never discount the program this heavily unless it's Black Friday, but I'm just going to do this as a little flash sale until Thursday, August the 29th. If you've been on the fence about it and you want to support yourself even further as you go into the fall and winter and really feel your best, this is a great way to do that. I also have in the show notes a link for the leptin diet, which is included in the 21-day course. But for people who just want the nutrition portion of the program, they just want to pull that out, that will be in the show notes as well. And so those things I'm going to offer just as a little promo for the next few days here. If you're shifting into fall and you're feeling a little bit motivated, ready to go, ready to make some changes. So those are down in the show notes for you, those links. Okay, so first, biggest question I get is morning routines and how in the world, if the sun is not coming up until later, but I have to be at work at X amount of time, how do I deal with that? And so here's the deal. In the morning, you are meant to start making cortisol. You actually make pregnenolone. The mitochondria begins to make pregnenolone, and it's funneled either into the cortisol pathway or into your sex steroid hormone pathway. So really supporting yourself in the morning, your perceived level of stress and your light environment are huge. This is also going to include nutrition and making sure that your blood sugar is balanced. That's where I have the leptin diet and my nutrition recommendations that you can find in that little protocol to help support you there. But let's just give a scenario that I am asked about quite often, and that is I have to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning and the sun comes up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I've got to rush around the house and get out the door, and then the sun's not going to even be up until I get there. So I can look at sun, I can step out of my office for a little bit, or I can, take a little break around that time. But what do I do? How do I help myself so that I have this healthy rise of cortisol and that the pregnenolone gets funneled to the correct pathways, right? So enough cortisol to feel alive, awake, motivated, energized, but also pregnenolone going to that sex steroid hormone pathway so you don't get hormone imbalances and start to have other wonky symptoms. So I'm going to recommend to that person that around your house, you have Edison style incandescent bulbs if you need to have lights on to see, to get around. And you're going to wear a pair of yellow tone blue blockers or orange tone blue blockers. I like Raw Optics or Viva Rays. My code over at Viva Rays is Yogi, and my code at Raw Optics is Sarah, Sarah. You can also get a cheap pair of Spectra 479 over on Amazon. So that's another, if you're skeptical about blue blockers, I always say start with the Spectra 479. But I typically in the mornings when I'm up and about and it's dark, it's wintertime, I'll just grab my yellow Raw Optics. Those are my go-to really. But there's also the option of the Viva Rays. Code there is Yogi. And then there's also the option of the Spectra 479 if you're like skeptical and you just want an inexpensive pair. Those are on Amazon. But always I keep, if I have to have light bulbs on, like I have this little lamp here on my desk for those of you watching the podcast. This is an infrared bulb. I can still get these here in Georgia. I know they're illegal in some states. So there's another option, Nira, Nira lighting. That is Scott Zimmerman's company. He has circadian friendly bulbs that block a lot of the blue light. So I would look there. You can also get the Hooga, Hooga bulbs over on Amazon that block blue light, but they're going to make your room kind of like this amber color. My husband really, really dislikes those bulbs quite a bit. He gets mad. But you want to keep your lighting in the morning low, right? You don't want to have a bunch of bright overhead lights on because that's a signal that tells your brain it's the middle of the day and that it needs to hurry up and make that much cortisol. Same thing with your phone. I understand a lot of people have to look at their phone, to maybe see if there's been a schedule change or, some sort of a change, or look at the day. Like I've got to plan things out. So to tell people don't look at your phone before sunrise in the winter is a little bit more difficult. So blue blockers, the yellow or orange tone, and then turning your phone screen red is crucial. So I do this. I use the color filters. You can go to YouTube and just type in turn phone screen red and put in the model of your phone, and that will pull up videos to show you how to do that. So I'm going to give you a lot of things in this episode that you're going to have to go out and do, a lot of action items. Bookmark the episode, grab a pen if you need to be writing some of this stuff down. I'll try to put as many links as I can remember in the show notes as well. So those of you who need to look at the phone, stay off of your Instagram, stay off of your Facebook, stay off of anything that's going to push dopamine up, because we want to make dopamine from sunlight, right? We really ultimately want sunlight coming in our eyes. Specifically, the UVA wavelength is going to tell your brain to make dopamine, serotonin, thyroid hormone, sex hormones. All of that is activated in UVA light. And so, looking to make sure that when you are up in the morning, that you keep your body in a parasympathetic state if you can, or a more balanced state, making sure that you hydrate when you wake up, clean mineral water. I'll try to remember to put my water guide in the show notes for you, but a really good clean mineral water to rehydrate your body, because we can actually get more dehydrated when the temperature changes and if we're indoors more. We'll talk about that when I get to the hydration section. And then a blood sugar stabilizing breakfast, because we want to give the body a sense of safety. Remember, we're making cortisol in the morning, but sunlight helps to put the brakes on cortisol or to bring it up to the right level. It's like an adaptogen. It's very helpful for that. So getting sunlight in your eyes, even if you get to work before sun rises, do these things at home. Keep your lighting circadian friendly. Wear yellow blue blockers or orange tone blue blockers to, again, make sure that you're not flooding your eyes and skin with a lot of artificial blue light. That's going to make your cortisol go up really high. Stabilize your blood sugar, again, to give your body a perceived sense of safety. If you can do a little bit of grounding, that's also going to help. Going outside when it's daybreak and not yet sunrise can also be helpful. There's a ton of red and near infrared light at that time. There's just no blue light. The blue light is what tells our brain to start making that appropriate amount of cortisol. And remember, sun is what's going to tell us to make that correct amount. I always say it's like an adaptogen to help our mitochondria know where to funnel that pregnenolone. So circadian lighting at home, blue blockers, getting your body into more of a parasympathetic state, which I get it. It can be difficult if you've got kids, if you've got to be in traffic, if you have all of that stuff. So just, doing your best with that. And your mindset is also important around this. Don't try to be perfect. I see people doing that too and thinking like a flash of blue light is going to wreck everything. It's not. Your brain is not stupid. Your body's not stupid. A little bit of blue light's not going to ruin everything, but do your best to mitigate things, right? And then you're gonna, if you're driving, don't wear red or orange tone blue blockers. And I really don't even like red blue blockers in the morning, because that can really keep your body in a state where it's, still making melatonin. We don't want to be doing that in the morning. We want to start to switch into making the appropriate amount of cortisol. So red blue blockers in the morning can keep you feeling groggy and not alert. So that's why I really like the yellow in the morning. If you can swing a pair of those, it's going to be helpful. And then again, eating something, hydrating. And then when you do get to work, or you do get to where you're going, or the sun does come up, and let's say you've been up a little bit of time, then go and see the natural light. Get that into your eyes, preferably without glasses, contacts, unfiltered. You never have to look directly at the sun. Just being outside is enough. It's okay if there's mountains, trees, buildings in the way, not an issue. You just go outside, get that light, get that signal, turn that on. And then time wise, this is another question I get. The truth of the matter is, the more time you can be outside, the better. That's just the truth of the matter. I know not everybody has unlimited time to spend outside. So if you only have 2 minutes, maximize that 2 minutes. If you got 5 minutes, maximize that 5 minutes. Maximize the time you have. And if you only have 2 minutes on Monday, but you have 15 minutes on Tuesday, that's going to even out. It's a cumulative effect. It's kind of like grounding. So the benefits of grounding are shown at 45 minutes a day, but you can get that in little spurts. So you can get 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, and that is going to be incredibly, incredibly helpful. Okay. All right. So I think that covers the morning routine, but just, do your best and don't try to be perfect. Consistency always over perfection. So the next thing we're going to talk about is cold. So temperatures changing. What did I do this morning? It was like 63 degrees. Felt amazing, by the way, because I'm used to these like almost 100-degree days. I wore my tank top and shorts outside barefoot, did some grounding, got some sunlight. And so I will be doing this. I will be outside as that temperature changes. What is difficult for people is if they go into this like abrupt change, right? They're just like, okay, I'm going to all of a sudden in the middle of the winter time decide to start experiencing cold. And that's like a lot for your body to have to adjust to. So we want to just microdose this. And speaking of that, I do have people in these really far northern latitudes where it gets very cold in the winter. And so you're going to have to microdose your time outside as well so that you don't get too cold, right? You want to adapt to it. You want to go slowly with it. But if you stick your head out the window for 30 seconds, just microdose. Remember, it's cumulative. So a minute here, go back inside, do what you got to do. Go out for another minute, go back inside, do what you got to do. Open a window, right? Crack open a window. That light can travel in through that window. So you're slowly adapting to cold as the temperature changes. Right now is a good time to start because it's a very subtle shift that starts happening, and you can really adjust to that. Now, as far as doing cold therapy, I probably do more cold plunging in the summer, to be honest with you. I do have a cold plunge tub, and I'll cold plunge a little bit more in the summer because it's so hot and it feels so good and refreshing to go jump in the cold plunge tub for 30 seconds, a minute. I don't do long plunges. But if you're going to think about doing cold therapy, start with just going outdoors, right? Start with dunking your face in ice water, dunking your wrists. Those are things to gently start giving your body that signal of cold and tapping into the mitochondrial benefits of cold therapy. So that actually helps to shrink that space between respiratory proteins in the mitochondria. The mitochondria make infrared heat in response to cold. So if you live in a cold environment, then know that just going outside, you're going to be supporting your mitochondria. You're not only going to be getting that circadian signaling from sunlight, but you're also going to force your mitochondria to make infrared, to make heat, which is going to hydrate you on a cellular level. So being indoors, being under a lot of artificial light is very dehydrating on a cellular level for a couple of reasons. Number one, blue light, unfiltered blue light, without the balance of red and near infrared, the way that we get it outdoors, it actually can block cytochrome 4 in the mitochondria. It causes vitamin A to uncouple from the eyes, and this impacts the mitochondria. It impacts our ability to make water. So if that you're like, what are you talking about? Just know that if you're indoors under a lot of artificial lights, again, I'm going to recommend those yellow tone blue blockers and taking breaks to go outside frequently through the day. Don't just wear yellow blue blockers all day long. You could get really groggy from that. Feel tired. I've seen people do it. That can create a hormone imbalance as well. But take breaks to go outside during the day to experience a natural light. Again, 30 seconds here, a minute there. Going to be really helpful for you. And protect yourself if you're under a lot of fluorescent or LED lights, a lot of unfiltered blue light. You can get Iris software. It's iristech.co is a good software that you can put on your computer. And that's going to be really helpful for you as well. To mitigate some of that blue light from screens, turning your phone screen red, again, also going to be really, really helpful. And then again, more is not better with cold. A lot of people are like, I'm going to do a 20-minute cold plunge at 32 degrees. And it's a stressor. And so for me, a lot of the stresses that I've been going through over the last year, just dealing with my daughter and some of her chronic health issues and having a toddler and all of that, like, I don't do tons of cold plunging. I don't push my body to fast. I don't push my body to do a lot of this stuff when I'm going through a lot of stressful stuff. So just know that you don't have to do all this crazy cold therapy. It's little hits of it. It's little bits of it. And starting now, as the weather's starting to change, is going to support you as it gets colder. Okay. Lighting. I think I talked about this a little bit before, but your indoor lighting is important. If you can crack a window, that's going to be really helpful. I will keep a red light therapy panel sometimes on the floor and just turn on the infrared portion. I use EMR Tech, and my code there is Sarah20 for 20% off. Sometimes I'll have that on the floor, just away from me, not like touching my body, just to balance out if I have a lot of blue light around me, or it just feels nice and soothing in the winter time if I'm going to open the window. But again, looking at your indoor lighting, because we are indoors a lot more in the winter. I personally never turn on overhead lights. We've got a lot of windows in this house, a lot of natural light. But if I did, I would again look at NIRA, NIRA lighting. I have no affiliation with it. I know that's Scott Zimmerman's company. He's one of the world's leading researchers on melatonin and understands circadian signaling, infrared, and the mitochondrial benefits of infrared. So that's one I'm going to recommend for indoors. And waveform LED, they have lights as well that I think are more circadian friendly. So those are some things to look at. Incandescent style, Edison incandescent style bulbs are also, I get those on Amazon. I can still buy those here, and I'll use those in the house as well because my husband doesn't complain about them. Those are a softer, a lower Kelvin, and they don't flicker. And they also contain infrared. So our indoor environments, especially if the windows are closed, are completely devoid of infrared. Infrared is needed for appropriate cellular hydration. It expands that exclusion zone water in the body up to 4-fold. And so you need infrared to support your mitochondria, to support cellular hydration. It's very, very important. So making sure that you are either going outside or you try to bring some infrared into your home as well. One more thing about lighting is lux. This is something that people start talking about a lot in the winter is lux. Should I get a 10,000 lux box? Lux is essentially like the intensity. Now, maximum lux indoors. Now, depending on who you ask about this, ChatGPT claims that you can get like 2,000 lux indoors. I've never seen that. I've measured lux indoors, even in front of my super bright studio lights. And my super bright studio lights are at 300 lux. I've been into Target before, which, by the way, going into Target actually makes me nauseous because of the lights they have. I have to wear my yellow blue blockers. Only 300 lux inside of Target grocery stores. All of these places that are super bright, like the Kelvin is intense. The Kelvin is probably like 5,700, 6,000 K, which is like what your phone screen is, but the lux is super low. So your brain actually needs a certain amount of lux. What's been studied is around 2,500 lux for depression, anxiety, and more for metabolism, right? For your metabolism to run healthy, fat burning, all of that, you need about 2,500 lux, not 10,000. And 10,000 from these lux light boxes is going to be extremely dysregulating to your circadian rhythms. And remember what I said about cortisol. Your mitochondria are going to make pregnenolone. This is going to be funneled into the cortisol pathway, or is going to be funneled into the sex steroid hormone pathway. So if we are making way too much because the lights we're exposed to are way too bright, like 10,000 lux, you could create a hormone imbalance. Again, this is just my opinion and a lot of the opinions of other practitioners that I'm close with that work in this space. And what we have seen with people who use these light boxes is that they can be more prone to hormone imbalance. So guess what? I have a little lux meter I've measured. Even on a cloudy, rainy day, it can get up to 10,000 lux. So you may think like it's so dim out there. It's cloudy, it's overcast. I live in Georgia. I live on the East Coast. And so, yeah, we get some really nasty, cloudy, yucky days, but there's still adequate lux for my metabolism and for my brain health to prevent seasonal affective disorder. There's adequate lux available even when it's overcast. And so don't discount a cloudy, rainy day. There's still a ton of red and near infrared, and there's lux, the amount of lux that your brain needs in order to have an efficient metabolic operation as well as prevent seasonal affective disorder. Okay. So again, a lot of people will ask me, how I feel about these light boxes or how I feel about just using red light therapy as a substitute for sunlight. And I say no to both, which leads me to red light therapy, which I get asked a lot of questions about. I tend to do more red light therapy in the winter because it just feels good. It feels really good. It's very hydrating to my cells. It causes mitochondria to make more water, to make subcellular melatonin. And it's just very, very supportive in the winter. There's also about 10,000 studies on red light therapy, that how it can improve microbiome health, how it can improve mental health, depression, anxiety, and all of that. But it's not a substitute for sunrise. Why? There's no blue light in a red light therapy panel. We need blue light from sunlight because someone actually messaged me on Instagram and said, my red light therapy panel has blue light in it. I'm like, no, still no. What did I say about sunlight earlier in this episode? It's like an adaptogen. It tells your brain to make the correct amount of cortisol. I don't know how much blue light is in that red light therapy panel. I don't know the Kelvin. I don't know any of that. It could be too much, right? So ultimately, if you want to do red light therapy, awesome. But you want to get natural light from the sun into your eyes first to signal your body to make the proper amount of cortisol. And again, to funnel pregnenolone into that sex steroid hormone pathway. So it's not too much. It's not a stressful thing for your body. Remember, the brain and the nervous system perceives things as stressful that maybe your mind doesn't, like flicker from LED and fluorescent lights. Your brain has to deal with that light turning on and off, and you can't see it with your eyes, but your nervous system can and your brain can. So it's very stressful to be around a lot of those lights and dehydrating. Again, blocking step 4 in the mitochondrial electron transport chain to be around lights like that all the time. And so again, red light therapy is great, very supportive in the winter, but it's not a substitute for sunrise. And when is the ideal time to do red light therapy? I'm going to say as long as the sun is up, honestly. You don't want to do it after sunset on your body because there are some studies that even show that red light at a certain brightness, which some of these panels are so super bright, can disrupt melatonin production. So if I'm going to use a red light panel in my home at night, I'm going to keep it on the floor. I'm going to only turn on the infrared portion of it. I'm still going to wear blue blockers, even if I have a panel on to kind of light my way. I'm not going to have my blue blockers off and experience. It's going to cut down on some of that brightness for me to wear my blue blockers. I know it sounds like a lot, but melatonin is the hormone that we want to make more of in the winter. It's a master antioxidant. And what helps our body to make more melatonin is going to be cold, infrared, and darkness. We want to experience darkness in the winter and really embrace that. And then changing your diet. That's why the leptin diet, if you're wanting to know more about nutrition, how to shift different macronutrient ratios, that can be optimal for you. That's a really good place to start. It's very extensive on nutrition and shifting your nutrition into a more winter diet. Again, red light therapy, fantastic, really helpful, supportive in the winter, but it's not a substitute for sunrise. There's no blue light in a red light therapy panel, and we want blue light. I know I'm like a broken record here in this episode, but we want the signal to come from sunlight as much as we possibly can, right? Don't let perfect be the enemy of good, but that's really the ideal. Hydration. You might start to experience some allergies in the fall. I know we can see that with our kids. It's not really something I've dealt with because I've been really, really focusing on my hydration, but different things are blooming. Temperatures changing, light is changing. So many things are impacting your body and demanding more of your body, demanding more of your mitochondria, of cellular water. So I'll put in the show notes a couple of things. My hydration guide gives you all the details of the best types of water to drink, filters, minerals, all the good stuff. And then I have a course called Hydration Mastery that'll go way deeper into all of this, discuss structuring, hydrogen, how to know if your water has hydrogen, how to know if your water is structured, all the nuance around some of these devices out here that are alkaline, kind of sometimes the dangers of alkaline water, because it's a nuanced conversation. So that's in the show notes as well. But Dr. Geldy, who wrote the book and a few books called, one of them in particular that I'm referencing is Your Body's Many Cries for Water. The histamine cascade is triggered by dehydration. And so we really want to support hydration as we shift into winter. And in the winter time, we'll be indoors more. We're going to be less connected to the earth. We're not going to do necessarily as much grounding. We're going to be, away from sources of infrared, a lot of us. So this does tax the hydration system of the body. So we really need to support it. So again, as you're shifting into winter, be mindful of that and really supporting your water. I also recommend a good air purifier as well if you're going to be indoors a lot more. Air Doctor is one. I'll put a link to the show notes in that. And then I have another one that we've been trying called the Jasper, JASPR. My code there is Sarah K. That's another good one that really cleans the air very well, but you want to make sure that you've got good source of clean air in your home as well, especially if you're going to be indoors a lot more. Evening routines. This is another one because some places, now I'm lucky here, I'm on the 33rd latitude. Latest that the sun, it's 5:30 is about the time that the sun sets here when we're close to winter solstice, right? Middle of December, December 22nd, I guess around there. 5:30 is what we get to, but I know some other places it's like 4:00. So in those places, if your sun is setting earlier, you're going to want to have a good pair of yellow blue blockers. I would put on yellow blue blockers or orange tone blue blockers when sun sets. And again, remember, winter is more of a time for our bodies to make more melatonin, to rest, to do more fasting, to do more autophagy. And so we want to support that as much as we can. We have hopefully made a lot of vitamin D in the summertime. And so melatonin actually docks at that vitamin D receptor site. And so we want more melatonin to support healthy immune system, to support our bodies, to help them to not get sick as much. So really supporting your body's endogenous melatonin production is important. So again, remember, we want to stay a little bit more restorative in the wintertime. It's not the time to stay up till 11 o'clock at night with all the overhead lights on and watching TV and eating snacks and treats and sugary stuff that happens to be sometimes more readily available during, we've got Halloween, and then we've got Thanksgiving, and then we got Christmas, we got New Year's, we got all these holidays where people are doing baked goods and candies and treats and stuff. So bad for your mitochondria, so bad for your circadian system. Not to say you can't ever indulge or enjoy these things. This lifestyle, what I teach in the 21-day leptin reset, is meant to help you to be resilient, so that if the one holiday is one day, if that one day rolls around and you're like, you know what, I want to have a couple pieces of Halloween candy, and it's not going to turn into a sugar binge and set you off for weeks at a time, which that used to be me 100%, no longer is. Since I live this lifestyle, I'm just like, it's literally miraculous. Since I have really dialed in my light environment and my nutrition, if I want to have a little bit of Halloween candy, it doesn't ruin my life for the next 3 months. So know that that is a possibility, but also know yourself. So don't do it if you think it's going to put you in a bad situation. What I'm trying to say, and my point is, that you don't have to live like a nun or a monk if you want to enjoy the Christmas dinner or the Thanksgiving meal with your family. Ideally, you try to do that in the middle of the day. My family, we always have the Thanksgiving meal and the Christmas meal in the earlier part of the day. We do like either a brunch, or on Thanksgiving, we'll eat at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That way we can still go outside, run around, walk it off, and we enjoy the day, right? So I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that you can't have enjoyment on these days. But what I am saying is that what is happening for a lot of people is that they live in the winter time as though it's like this eternal summer. So your lights are on, your heat is on, you're eating sugary foods, and which are full of deuterium, and your body is really we don't have that strong UV light available to help your body deplete that deuterium. So there's a lot of things at play here that can cause people to have a lowered immune system function. We also, again, don't have that high UV to support the body in that way. We're in these environments with no infrared, lots of LED. So how can we support that? Through all the things I talk about here in this episode. Now, a lot of people will ask me, what do I think about tanning beds? What do I think about vitamin D lamps and those sorts of things? So I have mixed feelings on that, because narrowband UVB, so just using that one frequency of light, a narrowband UV light in particular, period, is what has been studied to show cancer and these issues that pop up for people with these where you're using one single wavelength of light when we have multiple, so that we're supposed to be exposed to. It's also, there's no UVB available in certain parts of the world. However, I do recognize that some people do feel better with a vitamin D lamp in the winter time. Right. And so if that's something that you want to do all of the things that I've talked about here in this episode in regards to your light environment, your hydration, your nutrition. And then you would want to do that in the middle of the day. You'd also want to balance it with red and near infrared light. So use a red light therapy panel in conjunction with, and do that in the middle of the day. You would not want to use a vitamin D lamp at 8 o'clock at night. That could be very confusing circadian signal. And so I know EMR Tech just came out with a brand new light. My code there again is Sarah20. That's got UVA, UVB, red and near infrared, and you can like microdose these frequencies, UVA, UVB. And it's, when you're using these lamps, you have to be very careful not to burn your skin. So I put out a big disclaimer. You got to have a lot of caution with these lamps, with these lights, and using them appropriately. And knowing that, you could see some negative repercussions if you're not careful with how you do use the rest of your lifestyle, how the rest of your lifestyle looks. Everyone's like, oh, this causes cancer, that causes cancer. It's typically the entire lifestyle, the nutrition, the whole picture, even the mental landscape that is going to push the body into a state to try to protect itself in that way. Right? Because cancer is the body's response and a protective mechanism for the body. I know that sounds completely crazy, but that's kind of how I view it. So I hope that answers a lot of things with nutrition as well. We want to move more towards a local seasonal diet. Again, if you live in Canada, there's absolutely nothing growing. So that's where you would rely more on your cellar, stable produce, fermented foods, things like that can be helpful. And again, the leptin diet will help walk you through that and getting you to a place where you can in the winter time become a little bit more fat adapted. Remember, winter, rest more, sleep more, more restorative, a little bit more scarcity. You should actually lose a little bit of weight in the winter time, gain it in the summertime. We're usually the opposite in this country where people are like, oh, I lost a bunch of weight this summer and then I gained a bunch in the winter time, rapid weight gain. Well, why? Why? In the summer, you're probably out in the sunlight a lot more. You're outdoors a lot more. So your mitochondria is getting a lot more support. In the wintertime, people, again, are indoors. They're eating out of season, highly processed, high deuterium foods underneath artificial lights, not going to bed till late at night. So they're not moving into a lifestyle to be supportive of the winter. So, all right, here we are. It is the 26th. I said 25th earlier. So 26th of August. So I'm putting a 30% off coupon in the show notes for you for my leptin reset. It's going to be good through the 29th only. I only discount the program to 30% during Black Friday. So this is a very limited offer. And then if you're not quite ready for that as well, and you want more of the nutrition aspect, you can get the leptin diet. I'll try to remember to put as many links that I mentioned from the show into the show notes for you. But I really want you to support your mitochondria and your health, your mental health, all of that during the winter. And I hope that this episode was helpful. If it was, please share it with a friend, share it with a family member. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, or if you're listening over on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers. It's been like such a slow growth process, but I am going to try to put out more videos and things like this as we move further on. All right. Have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon.